The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily the views of the WARE staff, management, or our sponsors.
Paid for by the committee to elect Deborah Boronski for state senator at boronskiforsenate.com and is responsible for the content of this program.
Jobs are the number one solution to helping our communities get back on their feet. So what should we be doing now to get our economy moving? Taking Care of Business is a weekly show hosted by Deborah Boronski, president of the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and candidate for state senate. Deborah will introduce local business owners and discuss what we should be doing to help them grow so they can hire more people. Now, here's Deborah.
Good afternoon and welcome to Taking Care of Business. This is a weekly talk show that will introduce you to our local business owners and give you a chance to learn what they're doing to help us create jobs and make our communities better. I'm Deborah Boronski, president of the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and candidate for state senate in the 1st Hamden, Hampshire district. Everyone knows that jobs are the number one solution to helping our communities grow and get back on our feet. Right now, Massachusetts has more than 250,000 people that are out of work. And while we appreciate Mass Mutual and Hasbro for all that they do for our community, we know that businesses like those are far and few between. The jobs of today are created by small businesses, community businesses who perhaps started in their garage or in their basements and who perhaps started with family members and grew to 10, 20, and 50 more and more each year. So who better to talk to than the people who can create those jobs for us? These are the people who have the answers on how we can get our economy moving, because these are the people who are going to hire our unemployed. I'm thrilled to have our guest today introduce John Maybury. John is the president of Maybury Material Handling in East Longmeadow. And for more than 35 years, Maybury Material Handling has been providing customers with solutions to move, lift, and store their parts and products. So please join me in welcoming John Maybury as our guest this afternoon. Hi, John.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm pleased to be here. It's exciting for us as well to be able to be here to talk with you about jobs and opportunities, in Massachusetts specifically, and your role and responsibility moving forward through the Mass Chamber and things that you're now looking to do as senator, I think speak to what your mission is all about.
That's great, John. I'm excited about this show because it does indeed give us an opportunity to let people in our communities know that we have so many fabulous businesses right here in our backyard, and I think oftentimes people forget how lucky we are in our communities. When we go out to breakfast on Saturday morning, we forget that the woman or the man who started that business is our neighbor and working hard to provide a service. So, John, I would love it if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, give us some background about you, John Maybury, and how Maybury Material Handling came to be.
So, Deborah, that goes back a ways. I'm really not sure that I feel that old, but 37 years ago, our family decided to start a material handling business, something my father was very familiar with, having worked in the industry for years prior to that. And I was at Western New England College trying to figure out which way to go and how to get it done. I'm a lifelong resident of East Longmeadow. My roots, my heart, everything about me goes back to East Longmeadow and the surrounding areas. So decided that maybe what my dad had done is something that we could actually do ourselves. So true entrepreneurial beginning with my dad, just out of the basement of the home and a few family members. And, as we fast forward and think about what happened over the years, it was truly, steps in time where we were able to achieve different successes, overcome some obstacles and challenges. But ultimately now, as you say, 5, 10, 15, 20, very pleased to say that we now have 82 employees.
82.
Yeah, 82 employees. And we've spread across the region, not just as a very local East Longmeadow Springfield facility, but for Massachusetts, we have now gone into Connecticut, down into New Jersey, and we actually do business for companies all over the country and national firms. And that money, that revenue comes back to our, what was very small, but to our much larger enterprise at this point, to the 82 employees. And I look at that as an economic import of dollars that Massachusetts so much deserves is to get that money to come back from other regions of the United States, large corporations investing in Maybury, who then give it to the employees who invest locally through our local businesses. And for me, that's just a very powerful message for people to understand, is the more small business, entrepreneurial startups that the state can support by making permitting, affordable, effective, and quick, by offering up training grants and things like that. That's what's gotten, as for us, made the difference as we've traveled through this.
Right. So going from starting in your basement to employing 82 people is pretty impressive, John. I'm proud to know you.
It's something that just happens, I think, in one of my kind of internal sayings to myself every day: do the right thing and the right thing will happen. So over the years, I feel very proud that our employees have done the right thing. Thusly, good things have happened. And personally, I've been involved from JC's early on in the, I think it was early 80s, to president of the JC's, president of the East Longmeadow Chamber, involvement in the affiliates at the Economic Development Council, and now my role responsibility currently as chair of West Mass Development Corporation. So while I've been able to build a business with our associates who are very key to that, I've also tried to spread out and give back and take some of what I've learned and learn from others on how we can actually make a more effective region.
Well, I think I wear a couple hats here. I am the president of the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and candidate for state senate, and those two things marry, and we'll talk a little bit about that in this show today and moving forward. But Maybury Material Handling, I think that your success also needs to be said that you are an employer of choice in Massachusetts. And so you talk about your giving back to the community, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about the culture in your company, because you cannot just start a company in your basement and be in business for 35 years and employ 82 people and be that successful without having the right mix of culture that you bring as an individual, as a person, to your company and what your expectation is. So why don't you talk a little bit more about Maybury and the culture and the kinds of people that work there, the kinds of jobs that they have, and the culture that you've created for our community.
All right, so that's pretty easy for me to talk about. It is my life for sure. So, personally, I have a pretty competitive drive. I think some people would say that. Mechanical in nature, engineering and design pretty near and dear to my personal everyday activity. So, I have surrounded myself with great, talented individuals that can continue in that same basic concept and models so that we can go forward and do that. But responding to customer needs, having the flexibility, being accountable, our core culture is such that everybody gets it. Everybody understands that it's the customer first, employees second, and do the right thing, and the right thing happens. We have had some awesome success with tenure of employees. I hear a lot of people say, well, it's hard to keep or find good employees. So currently, our employees are ranging from 19 to 75 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive spread.
That's amazing.
And in 2015, we will have 20 employees with over 20 years of service. And since 2010, we've hired 25 full-time employees who are still with us today.
That is just so impressive, John. I am beyond words. I know a lot about your company because you are, as I said, you are one of our employers of choice, and I'm quite proud to have you as my first guest here. I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've faced, because obviously the answer to making our economy better is to increase jobs. And it's people like you, John, that have had the guts and the drive and the ambition to start your own company and take that risk and grow. And so now we want you to go from 80 employees to 100 employees. And what are some of the challenges that you face that I could help you with when I'm sitting in a Senate seat in Massachusetts?
So I would say for us, the workforce that we employ by a higher percentage would be that skilled employee, being involved in installation, fabrication, manufacturing of material handling products, and then the delivery of forklifts, which require service. And the technology with those has advanced significantly. We still have hydraulics and electronics to repair, but there's also computer integration now where they need to know about networking and communication and et cetera. So making sure that we have that good mix of a skilled workforce integrated with the college education, or at least the computer technology skills that are needed, that's a pretty big gap to kind of put together. And so we've done a lot of our own training. We've been very successful in receiving workforce training grants. I think the more that the state can support training for existing employers so that we can continue to ramp up the required education that they need to become more successful within the companies that they're employed is real important. And I think moving forward, anything that the state can do to continue to support that kind of program is very important.
Very good. I am talking with John Maybury right now of Maybury Material Handling. We're going to take a short break right now, and we're going to come right back and learn a little bit more about Maybury Material Handling.
Help Deborah Boronski get elected. She's always looking for good people to make calls, knock on doors, help with sign standouts, and yes, make donations. If you want to help Deborah with her campaign, you can sign up on her website at boronskiforsenate.com or give her a call today at 413-231-2225. That's 413-231-2225. Help Deborah win this election by donating your time and talent today.
This is John Maybury, president of Maybury Material Handling. Established in 1976, we are Southern New England's largest one-source supplier of crown forklifts, racking, shelving, dock and door equipment, and much, much more. We offer new products, rental, service, parts, installation, and custom welded solutions. 2014 is bringing growth for us, so we are interviewing now for road, forklift mechanics, and sales professionals in the Springfield, Hartford, New Haven areas. You can contact us at maybury.com. That's MAYBURY.com, or email jobs@maybury.com.
How many times do you see a politician and realize they just don't get it? That's why Deborah Boronski is running for state senate. Deb's not a politician. She's a successful businesswoman who founded local and regional chambers of commerce to fight for businesses and families in Western Mass. Deb truly understands that high taxes, government waste, and ineffective spending are the things that are preventing our economy from growing. So let's send Deborah Boronski to Beacon Hill. Deborah will listen to us because she's one of us, and we deserve to be heard. Paid for with the committee to elect Deborah Boronski.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Deborah Boronski. I am the president of the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce, and a candidate for state senate in the 1st Hamden, Hampshire district. You are listening to Taking Care of Business. This is a weekly show that will introduce you to our local business owners. Those are the business owners who make our communities what they are. They are the people who create jobs, who hire our children, our grandchildren, who provide us with the services and products that we need. And I want to support our small business community. And this show is here to introduce you to our local business owners and to listen to them so we can understand what it is they need from us so we can help them hire more people and improve our economies. We are here this afternoon with my guest, John Maybury. John is the president of Maybury Material Handling in East Longmeadow, where for 35 years, his company has been providing solutions to move, lift, and store parts and products. John, thanks for being with me this morning. We were talking before the break about the importance of a trained workforce. That being an employer in Western Mass is an enjoyment that you have been doing something for 35 years. But we were talking about some of the challenges that you have as a business owner, and trained, available employees is something that we were chatting about. If you want to continue on that line.
Yeah, sure. And then I can touch on a few other things that I think are pretty important as well. But the education system, if you will, in our junior high school arena has really had a great focus on college education, as it should. But I think when I was in school, we had a wood shop, a metal shop, mechanical drafting, automotive, electronic department. We had a lot of cool things that, for my personality and for my desire, was perfectly aligned. You know, I had mini bikes and motorcycles and cars, and so for me, understanding math, computer and English and social, I get it. But I was really, supercharged by metal shop, wood shop, etc. And I know some of the schools have had to, for budget reasons or whatever, have had to potentially outsource some of those opportunities to trade schools. I'm really excited about Putnam and what I saw there. I'm trying to partner as much as I can with them because what they're providing there is offering some really good training opportunities at that high school entry level. So I think the education system and what the state needs to at least keep a focus on, and you might be able to, support for at least my portion of the workforce, is we still need to let those younger people who would want to perhaps work with their hands. I think there'll always be plumbers, there'll always be electricians, there'll always be a mechanical trade. That's going to be necessary no matter how the computer age and technology takes over. So I think it's important that we maintain a balance here because in this region we certainly don't want to come up short on machinists and electricians and plumbers and the trades workforce.
You're actually, that's true. Not everyone is college bound.
Exactly.
And I think, that's something that I feel passionate about is, I think that we need to, in our high schools, talk about college and the need to get educated. And there are lots of opportunities to go to amazing universities. Massachusetts is blessed.
Yes,
we are the knowledge corridor, something you could talk about as well. But there are so many young people out there that just aren't fit for college. I didn't go to college until my son was 2.5. I wasn't fit. I was an adult learner. I started working right out of high school, and it wasn't until I was 29 years old that I decided I would go to college, and I did non-traditional work. I went to Cambridge College all day Saturday, half a day Sunday for 2.5 years.
Right.
My own son is, he works for a great company in Ludlow. He's a machinist. They're doing a great job training him, but he wanted to work with his hands, and college was not something in his future. So I think Putnam and the community colleges are an extremely important part of the answer to providing those quality trained employees that you're talking about.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And we try during the summer to put as many college or even high school students that are 18 or older to work, those that want to actually do something with their hands. And this summer is no exception. We're exceptionally busy. And we have several students working through the summer period, and they're getting exposed to some of those hands-on trades. Now, if they can blend and or decide that it's not for them, I feel we're helping them to understand what it is on our side of the world in terms of some of that hands-on. But I do think there's a mix, and I do agree that college education is a good path for those who are really positioned to do it at the time. Right. Some of the other challenges, though, that we definitely face are, the health care. I think that's a pretty unknown, where are we going to be next year, 3 years, 5 years from now. I think I can pretty openly say, though, that if I'm concerned about something, I try and get involved in it to whatever extent I can. So I have engaged with Bay State Health. I'm on the Board of Trustees. I'm on the Finance Committee. I'm the Chairman of the Board of the Foundation, trying to get philanthropy and business owners to really understand what a great jewel we have in Bay State. And understanding how Health New England and Bay State and the doctors are trying to figure out and navigate this healthcare helps me to better understand what I can possibly do as an employer, how I can possibly communicate with people to understand what we have for choices in healthcare, how we can keep the cost down, how we can navigate the unknown and still, get the quality of care that everybody would hope to get. But there's a great challenge in healthcare for businesses and some confusion, I guess I would say. So some employers are, should we go part-time? Should we stay full-time? What should we do with our healthcare benefits? Should we let Mass Health do it? How should it work? So I think there's still just an increase in education required so that people really understand how everything works. And so I'm trying to understand that myself and move that information along.
Some of the things that I hear, and again, as president of the Massachusetts Chamber, I've done that for the past 7 years, but for 27 years, I've worked with business leaders and owners. I ran the Chicopee Chamber of Commerce for 10 years. I was Senior Vice President of the Affiliated Chambers of Commerce for 11 years. I have in-depth knowledge of the challenges and concerns that businesses have, which is why this show is exciting for me, to bring people like yourself forward and share that information. Some of the things that I hear from business owners is their frustration with simply the paperwork and the regulation that is placed upon them as business owners by the state. That, if I'm a mechanic, that's what I know how to do. I'm starting a company to fix cars. And when I have a regulation that requires me to have some understanding of the law or accounting, or I have to go onto a computer and fill out complex forms, I am taking time away from running my company, making a profit so that I can hire employees to deal with these mandates. And that level of frustration comes across loud and clear. What can the state be doing to make it less difficult to just be a business owner and do what you want to do?
That's what I'm hoping you can figure out, and that's why I'm putting my support behind you in terms of that. But I think a smaller company, I read a book, The E-Myth, and really enjoyed and took a lot from that. Somebody just wants to be a baker and bake muffins, or just wants to do something. For me, I just want to sell lift trucks and material handling equipment. So everything else around that is something that creates some kind of friction or some kind of obstacle to really getting done the passionate thing that we want to do. Luckily, as we get bigger, we can hire the people that can work with these things. But no matter how you slice it, if it's a small company and you have to deal with excessive regulation or excessive paperwork or delays in paperwork because it takes a little bit longer to get it through the system and push it through, whether you're small or large and you've hired people, there's a cost associated with my professionals who fortunately do a lot of that for me, because again, I just like to sell forklifts and material handling solutions and play that role responsibility. It still is a burden that we don't want to have in excess for any of the businesses, whether they're small or large. So anything the state can do, I have a small example. It would be we provide forklifts and operator training to actually certify forklift operators. And in that process, our manufacturer, the Crown lift truck manufacturer, supplies to us multilingual electronic presentation media in all forms, with books, with hands-on training to operate safely lift trucks so that we don't have industrial accidents with forklift trucks. Somewhere along the line, hoister's license requirement from the state of Massachusetts has come into play that forklift operators may need to have a hoister's license. And to tell you the truth, I think it's still a little confusing amongst people as to what's actually going on. But there isn't a certification that we've been able to obtain that our program meets those needs. And it's been quite a while now. The regulation's in place to have a hoister's license, but the opportunity for us to actually use our program, which is perfectly suited and probably more specific to the actual industrial truck than a general hoister's license, which would be for bulldozers and bucket loaders and backhoes and other things. So, there's some things there where I think we get the cart in front of the horse sometimes, and we don't slow down and go, well, what is this going to do? How are we going to play it out? Kind of like regulations without the full understanding of it. So that's one that I can speak to. I'm sure there's others that have frustrated other people, but
kind of like a ready, aim, shoot.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's a great example, John. And I think that I was a selectman in East Longmeadow for a couple of years, and I was a good one. Thank you very much. And so I understand, being a selectman, it was pretty much a volunteer position. There is a lot involved in being an elected official, and I completely understand how hard it is to be informed of all million different things that are going on, and having to learn about the situations, and then having to make a really good, well-informed decision. And so on a state level, I just, that's magnified by the thousands.
Oh, sure.
And so I can certainly appreciate and understand our elected officials in Boston being presented with information and having to make decisions. But this is a good example of perhaps taking a little bit longer and looking into what the ramifications of those decisions are. And I think that one of the reasons I'm excited about going to Boston and sitting at the table is that I bring that business perspective to the table. I bring those years of listening to the businesses, talking about what the ramifications have been of certain decisions, and bring that to the table so that perhaps we can make decisions with more thought in mind. I think that when you have a different representation of people at the table, then more conversation can take place and better decisions can be made.
Right, and safety is near and dear to Maybury and our heart. We're like 2,265 days or 55 days without a lost time injury, so that's over 6 years. So safety, I understand. A hoister's license is focused on that being the end goal, is to have the safety, but we've got to tweak it just a little bit,
right.
And that's where I think your involvement and your understanding could definitely help us, in those areas.
I think it would be great if, in the legislature, that when we're talking about making regulations or creating new laws, that we bring the professionals and the business people in who it may impact, and make sure that we're asking specifically, if we make this law, what will that do to you, and what things haven't we thought about? Why wouldn't that be something that we would do, so that if we're making a decision, we're trying to anticipate every possible side before making a law or a regulation.
Right.
I think that's something that I look forward to initiating. Are there any other things that you can think of as a business owner that people should be aware of that that make it hard? I talk to people about the general public just doesn't understand that the smaller business, there are times that they are funding their own business. Payroll comes around every single week, and if you didn't have a good week, you still have employees. You're taking from your personal account to keep that business afloat. I'm sure in 35 years you haven't had perfect years.
Oh, we've had our challenges. I mean, I liken it a lot of times to, how many college educations have I received in 37 years? Because, at any given point, it's a technology lesson, or it's a financial lesson, or it's a leadership lesson of a master's program degree that I'm involved in, at any given point in time. So, lots of things, lots of challenges. I think we were real lucky, and maybe in the next segment we can actually, go into some depth on actual funding and financing. But we were real lucky because in the 70s, it was a handshake and here's some money, and we get it, and we know you, and we know your family, and away we go. Significantly different right now.
Very good. Well, I think I'm thanking you for that opportunity to let our listeners know that we're going to take a break right now. We are talking with John Maybury, and we'll be right back after this little bit of break.
This is John Maybury, president of Maybury Material Handling. Established in 1976, we are Southern New England's largest one-source supplier of Crown forklifts, racking, shelving, dock and door equipment, and much, much more. We offer new products, rental, service, parts, installation, and custom welded solutions. 2014 is bringing growth for us, so we are interviewing now for road, forklift mechanics, and sales professionals in the Springfield, Hartford, New Haven areas. You can contact us at Maybury.com. That's MAYBURY.com, or email jobs@Maybury.com.
Would you like to help Deborah Boronski get elected? She's always looking for good people to make calls, knock on doors, help with sign standouts, and yes, make donations. If you want to help Deborah with her campaign, you can sign up on her website at boronskiforsenate.com, or give her a call today at 413-231-2225. That's 413-231-2225. Help Deborah win this election by donating your time and talent today.
How many times do you see a politician and realize they just don't get it? That's why Deborah Boronski is running for state senate. Deb's not a politician. She's a successful businesswoman who founded local and regional chambers of commerce to fight for businesses and families in Western Mass. Deb truly understands that high taxes, government waste, and ineffective spending are the things that are preventing our economy from growing. So let's send Deborah Boronski to Beacon Hill. Deborah will listen to us because she's one of us, and we deserve to be heard. Paid for by the committee to elect Deborah Boronski.
afternoon, and welcome back to Taking Care of Business. This is Deborah Boronski. I am the president of the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and candidate for state senate in the 1st Hamden, Hampshire district. Taking Care of Business is a weekly talk show that will introduce you to our local business owners and give you a chance to understand how hard they're working to make our communities better and create jobs for our residents. Everyone knows that jobs are the number one solution to helping our communities grow and get back on their feet. So who better to help us understand how to do that than those people who are creating those jobs? We are here this afternoon with John Maybury. John is the president of Maybury Material Handling in East Longmeadow, where for 35 years he has been providing his customers with solutions to move, lift, and store their parts and products. If you've been listening to us for the last 40 minutes or so, we'd certainly like to invite you to give us a call. If you'd like to call and ask John some questions about his amazing company and how he got started, or if you have questions of me, you can call in at 289-2300. That's 413-289-2300. In the meantime, John, thanks for waiting. And I think before we left for the break, we were chatting about finance.
I think we were, and I think the comment I was making was, back in the 70s. So we started in 1976, and in the 70s, we were well known in the community. We started the business in our community in East Longmeadow, and Jim Welch at actually First Bank and Trust, which a lot of people may not even be able to relate to at this point in time, but it was pretty much go down and see Jim, shake a hand, and get some money so that we could make payroll and buy some materials and have the inventory that we needed to hold before we actually got paid for it. So, that revolving line of credit, if you will, or that venture capital was fairly easily accessible back then without the number of bank regulations and things that are in play now. Fast forward through, 89 and 01 and 08 and a few other situations that have affected the banking industry that I understand. It's just not so easy for somebody who has an idea to go down to a local bank and say, I have an idea, can you fund me and get me going with this high risk, high mortality, entrepreneurial startup, which is really what we were in the 70s. We made it. I don't remember the percentages, but I know first year businesses, the failure rate is in the 80s or 90%, and then after 5 years, it gets to a lesser number. But for people to fund that kind of, for banks to fund that kind of startup is risk. So really, I think now for our state and for our region, the venture capitalists that are attracted to Massachusetts, and the more the state could do, the more you could do to get people to understand we are a great state to find educated entrepreneurs that maybe at age 30, 40, 50 decide to make a change, or right out of college get very adventurous. The more we can do to encourage venture capital so that they can get their start, so then they can go to the banks and present their package and get their working line of credits. And
so for folks who might not know, venture capital, basically we're talking about people who have some money to invest, and it's not a bank, it's an individual.
Exactly.
And that individual wants to invest in you and your idea. And
right. Individuals or groups of individuals. Sometimes there's groups. And I think yesterday was you mentioned earlier, we can't count on the Mass Mutuals and the Hasbros, and I understand that. But Roger Crandall yesterday made an announcement at a developers conference in Springfield that Mass Mutual is going to ante up $6.5 million for startups and smaller companies. And in his words, it was, today maybe they're 5, but there'll be 5, 10, 50, hundreds of employees possibly in the future. And that's actually the roots of Mass Mutual many, many years ago. The Rices were just a couple of guys.
Right.
And now, I forget the number, it was a staggering number of employees that Mass Mutual now has, and we all know how they contribute, in their current state. So at some point, some investors got together, and I think the story went, Roger said yesterday, $100,000 way back then.
A lot of money.
Yeah, got them started, and now look what we have is a multi-billion-dollar, very well-rooted, very great company.
And this region is certainly blessed to have Mass Mutual in it. And when I say, the Mass Mutuals and the Hasbros of the world are far and few between, certainly, hopefully Maybury in another 30 years can
keep her going.
Can keep her going.
Yeah.
But thankfully, again, a great example, Mass Mutual is a homegrown business, and today they employ thousands of our people, and now they're giving back in such a tremendous way to help support more entrepreneurs. And I guess, again, that is the whole idea behind this show, is to talk to people about the importance of supporting their local businesses. Supporting your local businesses, buying local, and just keeping an eye on who we have. I mean, what did we just hear, that the fort is going to close? That's sad.
Yeah, I'll be eating dinner there Friday night to make sure that I get in one last
your
dose.
your last toast.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mass Mutual, obviously, for being here and supporting our communities, and obviously that's a tremendous investment in our communities. And I think I want people to understand and know that it is the business community who is giving back. Talk a little bit more, John, about the things that you do as a businessman to give back to your community, because I think that's important for people to understand that not only did you grow up in East Longmeadow, your parents, your children went to East Longmeadow schools, you were part of Rotary, you are on the Board of Public Works, so you volunteer your time to give back to the community there. You do a lot.
We try
Talk about what you do.
Try to stay busy. It's hard to hit a moving target, so we just keep moving. But I just feel connected to this region, specifically East Longmeadow. But now that our business has taken us to Connecticut, New Jersey, and others, I'm certainly trying to be more regional and not just be completely self-centered. But Massachusetts is my roots, and so I try to connect every which way I can. Some of the things we do for fun, we have cruise nights at Maybury, and then those donations that we receive from those go to Rays of Hope, Dakin Humane Society, Wounded Warriors, other types of things. Springfield Symphony is in September, so we're doing that. In the meantime, like I said, Bay State Health, very active on the Board of Trustees, the Finance Committee, and the Foundation. Again, a lot of it is a networking opportunity, because when you bring different people together to understand what they may not have had an appreciation of prior, things change. Even I would say even that of politicians and politics. People fear the unknown and perhaps are negative of the unknown until it starts to come together and make sense for them. So as many times as I can interact and bring different groups of people together, it's part of my enjoyment of reaching out. West Mass Development Corporation for me has been very fulfilling. The Ludlow Mills project.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. And
that
I know
is
Ken DeLude, who runs
is
West
amazing,
Mass,
and the staff,
yes.
they're amazing. And our board of directors are so engaged that our board meetings are full with people sitting behind people, just wanting to be at those meetings. But so in the last few years, 3 years actually, from a mill that used to produce jute that was pretty much starting to decay and was in need of somebody to come along and do something, West Mass Development Corporation stood up to the challenge and grabbed that opportunity, purchased the mill from the original owners, and then went forward with a lot of initiatives through the DEP, the EPA. The state has helped us a lot with grant funding. We've written a lot of grants. There's been historic tax credits, etc. If I add it all together and we talk about what's going on there now, Health South, which was in Ludlow, was looking for a new facility and may have had to scramble to find one. We were able to put together a parcel for them, have a brand new facility there. Wind Development is coming in and should be breaking ground next year in there, as well as some other opportunities that I can't quite talk about yet. But to date, in the last 3 years, $67 million of investment on East Street, gas infrastructure, water infrastructure, building rehabilitation. Health South is in there. Just some really, really exciting things where we've leveraged some of the state grants and opportunities and historic tax credits and other things. We've leveraged that into $67 million in 3 years.
And I want to say, you want to say when things are done right, they're done right. I certainly want to go to Boston and contribute, but I want to applaud those lawmakers that are involved in making these kinds of things happen, because they need to support these kinds of projects. They create jobs, and I applaud those who are involved and supporting the redevelopment of the Ludlow Mills. It's a good thing.
It really is.
It really is. I have a funny story about the Ludlow Mills, and going way back in my career. It's a karma story. So in my first career, I worked at Sunshine Village, and I found jobs for people with disabilities. And the very first person I found a job for was a young man who lived in Ludlow, and I got him a job at Norpin Manufacturing Company.
Oh, sure.
Who was in the Ludlow Mills. Fast forward 33 years, I'm standing at the end of the Indian Orchard Ludlow Bridge, waving, vote for Deborah, and a man pulls up behind me and says, "Gee, you look familiar. Your name is familiar." It was Ken Pinsent, the president of Norpin Manufacturing,
Wow.
who remembered me from 32 years ago and said, the gentleman that I had placed had just retired. And by the way, let me support you. I live in Granby. My business is in Wilbraham. And so 32 years later, you talk about karma and bringing it back. Ludlow Mills are an amazing cluster of buildings. And Ludlow in and of itself, I ran that chamber through the ACCGS for many years. I've got a lot of good friends there. Is a great community, and I know they're all thrilled for the opportunity to have it redeveloped.
Yeah, and it's yet to be announced, all the exciting things that are going to happen. Great for Ludlow. Excellent support from Ludlow, I should also say, too. So, the state needs to support us. Other agencies need to support us. But the local communities need to understand the more they can embrace the growth for, regional development or redevelopment goes a long ways, too, with other businesses choosing them as a location.
Yeah, I think that's an important segue to a conversation about people getting involved in the process. Also, in working with the Chamber of Commerce and talking with lawmakers, oftentimes they will say to us, we don't hear from people. And so I was talking earlier about our elected officials finding information and getting information before they make a decision. But at the same time, it is up to us as individuals to reach out to our elected officials and make sure they understand what it is that's important to us. Brian Lees used to say, if he got 2 or 3 phone calls about a specific issue, it was a whirlwind.
Right.
But if he got 2 or 3 phone calls on an issue, it must be important.
Exactly.
That's staggering.
And until you actually hear it, live it, and see it, it is a hard thing to understand, because you would think they're hearing from people all the time.
Right.
But most recently, we were writing some letters and campaigning for something, and I got a personal phone call and I said, "Okay, that's enough. We get it. We're all set." But I think it is important for people to realize, if you feel passionate about something or something needs to be heard, it is up to us to tell the legislators and tell people what's going on.
Right. So I'm going to remind people that if you have something to say, if you'd like to meet John Maybury, who's a pretty awesome guy, and just say hi to him and ask him some questions, you can call in at 413-289-2300, or if you have a question of me, I can try to answer that. Again, it is 413-289-2300. At this point, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back to talk with John about Maybury Material Handling and running a business in Western Mass.
This is John Maybury, president of Maybury Material Handling. Established in 1976, we are Southern New England's largest one-source supplier of Crown forklifts, racking, shelving, dock and door equipment, and much, much more. We offer new products, rental, service, parts, installation, and custom welded solutions. 2014 is bringing growth for us, so we are interviewing now for road, forklift mechanics, and sales professionals in the Springfield, Hartford, New Haven areas. You can contact us at Maybury.com. That's MAYBURY.com, or email jobs@Maybury.com.
How many times do you see a politician and realize they just don't get it? That's why Deborah Boronski is running for state senate. Deb's not a politician. She's a successful businesswoman who founded local and regional chambers of commerce to fight for businesses and families in Western Mass. Deb truly understands that high taxes, government waste, and ineffective spending are the things that are preventing our economy from growing. So let's send Deborah Boronski to Beacon Hill. Deborah will listen to us because she's one of us, and we deserve to be heard. Paid for by the committee to elect Deborah Boronski.
Would you like to help Deborah Boronski get elected? She's always looking for good people to make calls, knock on doors, help with sign standouts, and yes, make donations. If you want to help Deborah with her campaign, you can sign up on her website at boronskiforsenate.com or give her a call today at 413-231-2225. That's 413-231-2225. Help Deborah win this election by donating your time and talent today.
And welcome back. This is Deborah Boronski, president of the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and candidate for state senate in the 1st Camden, Hampshire district. We are here this afternoon with John Maybury, president of Maybury Material Handling, We're talking to John because he is a perfect example of a businessman who started his own company in his cellar with his family, and 35 years later employs 82 people. He's an amazing example of what we can do if we support our local businesses, our local community, and that's what this show is about. We want to create more jobs in Western Massachusetts, and we can do that today. We can do that now by learning from John and others like him what it is we can do to help him grow and find more find more opportunities to employ people. So John and I were talking about finance, and we were talking about Ludlow Mills just before we left. I'm curious about any other thoughts you have about how we as a state can make it easier for you to grow. I want you to hire 10 more people in the next year, John. How are we going to help you do that?
Yeah, we want to hire at least 10 more people. Matter of fact, we need 5 right now. So we've been advertising quite heavily to attract the talent that we need at Maybury. My wife Sandy and I, really want to continue Maybury and make sure that we can continue to have growth opportunities. It's either lead, follow, or get out of the way. So we definitely want to lead. We've done a lot of that with technology. Our technicians are all on tablet PCs, or if you will, Surface Pros. We don't have paper in the field anymore. With the work orders, it's all electronic. Lots of innovative things there. So anything the state can do to continue to make sure that our infrastructure for our IT, the speed of our access on the internet and connectivity across the entire state, real important, because if we get into a smaller region that's developing an industrial park and it doesn't have an high-speed access, it's going to be a detriment for some of the people that want to locate there, or for us who want to do service there. So the high-speed internet is big. The pre-permitted land, so we want to do business with as many companies as possible, because that offers us growth opportunity. We have growth within existing customers, but obviously if a new customer decides to develop here in Massachusetts, Western Mass, Worcester, anywhere, as opposed to go into a sister state or a region around us, we've got a great opportunity in Massachusetts to capitalize on that. Going faster forward into the future, I feel I have a lot of years left in me. I'm really excited. I think I'm still energized by the opportunity to grow the region, to introduce new customers to what we can do and how we can save them money and what we can do for them. Lucky to say both of my kids are doing quite well. One of them got married last Saturday. He actually works for Price Waterhouse. He's an accountant. My other son is getting his doctorate in physical therapy. So people go, are they coming into the business? And I say, I don't know. Right now they've got different career paths, but I've read many a story where people have their children have gone off on a path and they come back. If the opportunity is there and they want it, that's great. If not, I have plenty of associates who I can see potentially filling in and doing an ESOP or purchasing. There's plenty of opportunities for us to continue Maybury to provide for the region, so long as we have the development and the growth of the economy in Massachusetts. We are a local company. We don't sell worldwide on the internet. We sell a goods and service that needs to be consumed by businesses in Massachusetts. So anything that can be done to grow the vitality, and I have to say, Western Mass is positioned perfectly for that growth. You know how congested it is in Boston. You know how congested it is in other cities, New York, etc. Western Mass has crossroads of 90 and 91, has land availability, has resources availability, has talent, has education. We have everything we need, so long as politicians and businesses can work together to create those best opportunities.
That is great. That was well put. Are you running for office?
I'm not. I've got plenty of things going on. Matter of fact, I was asked this morning if I wanted to get engaged with Putnam, and at some point I would love to be engaged with Putnam, but I do have a few hats right now, and I do need to show up at Maybury once in a while.
You do need to show up there. I know. I know the folks that work with you, and like I said, we've worked together quite a bit through the Massachusetts Chamber. We will be having Peter Salerno on. He's in charge of the foundation at Putnam, I believe.
Yes. Awesome.
So I spoke with him a little while ago. We're scheduling people already a month in advance for this show. So I'm pretty excited, and he definitely wanted to come in and talk about the training that they're going to be offering. And again, I think that's so important for people to understand. Why don't you tell people what Maybury does? I know what, and when I'm explaining to them that you have solutions to move, lift, store, and store their parts, a little more like, who are your customers, John? Yeah,
so our customers range everywhere from a small shelving in a back office to what you would see at Home Depot as far as rack and forklift trucks. Right now we're doing a fairly extensive conversion to put a what we call InfoLink system on all the lift trucks in Home Depots across the Northeast. And what that does is actually goes up over RF and comes back into us, and it tells us exactly the state of the forklift, how many hours on it, if it has an intermittent foot switch, who's using it, when they use it, state of the battery. So we're actually engaged now with Home Depot, Lowe's, large, global JCPenney, Macy's, or Federated, however you would know it by, as well as Big Y and Friendly's and other local, to provide for their warehousing and distribution. So that's the pallet rack. People go, they go to the store and grab a bottle of ketchup off the shelf. Well, where did that ketchup come from? It's just there when we want it. It really was a tomato.
Right.
Was processed in a food processing facility, probably went down some conveyor systems, was packaged and boxed and then palletized and put into some storage onto a trailer, moved to a warehouse or a redistribution center, and finally Big Y is able to put it on their shelf as a bottle of ketchup.
Right.
But when we go shopping, we don't really think about all those material handling things that happen to make sure that that bottle of ketchup or that jar of mayonnaise is where I want it, when I want it.
Right.
So
that's a great example. One of the things I've been blessed with, when I worked at Sunshine Village, so many years ago, my job was to find people with disabilities employment. So I knocked on a lot of doors of manufacturers back in the flats of Holyoke. Remember the puzzle company?
Oh, sure.
Ederon,
Yep.
was it?
You're catching me on that one.
Okay,
but
so
yeah.
there was a puzzle company, lots of manufacturing. You're
Mhm.
going to think of it. I know
I
you
know
are.
I am.
And I would just knock on the doors and look for employment opportunities for the folks with disabilities. And I was able to tour so many manufacturing companies and see the palletized operation. So I
Right.
have an appreciation for that where others may not. I actually toured Polar Beverage.
Sure.
And we
Pretty
make
fascinating,
we
yep.
make the plastic bottles in East Longmeadow.
Right, at Plastipack.
We,
Yep.
Massachusetts is
Right.
at Plastipack.
Right.
They manufacture the actual empty plastic bottles that then get shipped out to Worcester, where Polar Beverage makes their soda.
Right.
Quite an interesting.
Right. So our evolution includes, American Bosch, Moordrop Forge, Danaher Tool, some of those folks who were here, and now others who have come in. And so we've adapted to the changing environment, which we all know change is constant.
Yeah,
So
if it's not changing, it's not moving.
exactly.
So, John, before we end the show, tell me a little bit about the future. Just what are your hopes in the next 10, 15, 20 years for Maybury Material Handling?
Well, we need to keep doing what we're doing, and we are a leader in our industry in terms of the technology that we deploy and the technology that we embrace. So I've spoken nationally with our association about the use of technology and how technology is an accelerator. And we only deploy it if it is an accelerator to our process. So what used to take us a week or 3 to get a bill back to somebody, now the invoice is created within an hour. And so when people say it can't be done quicker, better, faster, and we can't take waste out of the process, really we're driven to find better processes, take waste out of the process, do lean, and continue to strive, to be much better than we are today. And that's really do the right thing, and the right thing's going to happen, and our people really are key to that.
John, you just hit it on the nose as to what I intend to do when I'm elected senator, because there are always ways to do it better, to improve the process, and to get it done more efficiently. You just said it.
Absolutely.
And there are hundreds of agencies run by the state of Massachusetts, and I am certain that by looking at them and in calling on business people like yourself to help us look, we can do a better job. And you just hit that right on the nose. I am just thrilled to have had you here, John, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. I would like to say that next week's guest is Michael Boucher, who is the owner of Custom Auto Body in East Longmeadow. Again, a small business owner who started himself, who has grown, who will have a lot to say about running a business. Again, this is Deborah Boronski, President of the Mass Chamber, saying goodbye for now and taking care of business. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Real Oldies.